Welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Hanny.
I'm ordering lunch, and my name is Chris Korski, but I'm ordering lunch because I'm hungry.
So what are you ordering?
I've decided I want Japanese food, so I'm gonna get some. I'm gonna get some udon.
Udon? Good.
And then I'm getting some tempura. Today I'm getting tempura.
Wait, tempura? 甜不辣吗？甜不辣 Sweet,
No.
not spicy. That's what we eat at barbecues.
You mean the little fish cake?
Yeah,
No.
黄扁扁的甜不辣。
No, I'm getting Japanese tempura. Japanese tempura is like the.
日本还有甜不辣。Oh.
Yes.
I think you're talking about 天妇罗 tempura, the fried things, the
No.
fried vegetables.
No. Well, yeah, it's fried vegetables, but not like the fish cake thing. I want to get like the fried vegetable things,
我
right?
想说，哪有人吃甜不辣当午餐的？
Yeah, I'm getting some Japanese food. I'm getting fried vegetables, but I heard that they're actually not Japanese.
You're kidding.
I'm super serious.
You are kidding.
No, I am super duper. I'm not that serious, actually. It's but yeah, they're not Japanese. They're
怎么
actually
可能？天妇罗就是日本的啊！等一下，我们先吵一下，待会
no,
日本，
no,
日本。
no.
When it comes to Japanese food, the first dishes that come to mind are usually sushi and ramen. But one other that deserves recognition is tempura. The famous dish of lightly battered and deep-fried vegetables or meat is often enjoyed by people around the world as a snack or a side. However, the origin of tempura isn't Japanese. It's actually Portuguese. Portuguese merchants arrived in Japan in the late 16th century, and trade between the two nations soon picked up. At first, the Japanese were more interested in guns, but they later traded goods like silk and silver for wool, tobacco, and Portuguese recipes, such as the one for tempura.
Welcome to our Cloze Test unit. Today we're going to talk about tempura.
A Portuguese treat?
A Portuguese treat?
That's right, yeah. It sounds kind of weird because tempura is like the most Japanese food around. Tempura is as Japanese as like sushi, right?
Yeah.
But no, actually it's from Portugal.
天哪，我今天第一次知道这件事情哎，天妇罗不是日本的食物，它是来自葡萄牙。好，那我们还是
I like that.
葡萄
I
牙。
didn't know how to say Portugal in Chinese. 葡萄牙。
但很奇怪 ，Portugal 听起来好像波奇狗， 波奇狗，但是是葡萄牙啦。
Yeah, well, it's an interesting name. Portugal is just outside of Spain, and you can kind of like get out to the ocean, and that's why it's called a port.
哦，所以跟 port 港口是有关系的。
That's right. 应该不是葡萄。
不是跟葡萄。好，那么我们这个标题里面 Portuguese 就是形容词，形容葡萄牙的啊，葡萄牙人、葡萄牙文化的等等。Okay, so why don't we get started and then let you read the first sentence?
Of course, let's go. When it comes to Japanese food, the first dishes that come to mind are usually sushi and ramen.
对啊，说到日本食物，当然会先想到寿司、拉面嘛。And when we say when it comes to, it's not like something knocks on your door. I'm coming.
Ramen 来了。
拉面来了。So we use this phrase to talk about what we're going to bring up a topic, right?
That's right. When we say something comes to mind, it means we're thinking about something. And right now, we're thinking about Japanese food. Japanese food comes to mind.
哦，所以我们用 when it comes to 是要带出一个你要讨论的主题相关，说谈到什么，说到什么。那么 come to mind 则是说会出现在你脑海里，你想到了什么东西。那么 sushi 跟 ramen 应该不用解释，就是寿司拉面。
You know what they are, right?
Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to, we use this as kind of like a preposition.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because usually after to, we're not adding s or ed or anything, but we could say when it comes to eating delicious Japanese food. So what's going on here? To is your preposition here. And so after a preposition, you need a noun or a VING, a gerund.
对，所以注意这个 to 后面不是要加原形动词，是接名词或动名词。好，那我们接着来看下一句。Well, here comes our first blank.
Here, our first blank. Here we go. So,
But one other that
blank.
recognition is tempura. 那这个题目意思就是说，但另一个空格认可的就是天妇罗，它是在考动词。我们来看选项。So our options are
Observes.
好，第一个 observe 是观察、注意到。
Reserves.
好 ，reserve 就是预约、保留的意思。
Deserves. Well, you can hear the D.
好，对，那么 C 选项 deserves 就是值得、应得怎么样？
And lastly, preserves.
好，这个 D preserve 就是保护、维持、保存的意思。那么寿司跟拉面都是普遍受到认可的日本食物。课文里面是要表达说，另一个值得认可的就是天妇罗，所以我们用动词 deserve 来表达值得比较恰当。像其他什么观察认可、预约认可、保护认可，你听起来都不对嘛，所以答案选 C deserves. So the correct sentence is.
But one other that deserves recognition is tempura.
Oh, what does it mean, recognition?
So when we say recognition, we got two little parts here. We have re, that means like again, and then COG. And that means like about your brain. That's like now to the isa. So when we say recognition, we're saying, hey, I'm thinking of you again, but this time I want to show everybody. But be careful. This word is a lot like remember, but we don't say recognize. We want to say recognize with that short E sound.
哦，那注意它就是动词是 recognize， 然后名词是 recognition， 它就可以指那种承认、认可或是认出的意思。Okay, here we got an example sentence for this word recognition.
Let's go. After the artist died, he finally started to receive recognition for his work. This is just like Vincent van Gogh. When he was young, nobody really cared. But he only became Vincent van Gogh after he died.
很可惜，有些艺术家都等他们过世后才变出名的。Okay, now let's move on to the next sentence.
Let's go.
Okay, so the famous dish of lightly battered and deep-fried vegetables or meat is often enjoyed by people around the world as a snack or a side. 好，那这边这个 lightly battered.
So battered means two things in English. So number one, it means to like punch somebody. But normally you don't take like your corn and punch it first, right? You don't do that. So really what this means is you put it in some flour and some milk or water or butter and you get it nice and saucy and then bam, right into the oil and you deep fry it and it tastes really good. So battered here means to cover it like in that egg and the breadcrumbs or flour and water. It makes everything taste better.
That explanation sounds delicious. 好，我们说 lightly batter， 这个 batter 当动词就是裹上面糊来做油炸。
Oh, not punch?
Not punch. 对，然后过去分词 battered 来形容我们这个 lightly batter 就是表达说轻轻裹上一层面糊，还有 deep fried 就是油炸的。油炸食物好像不太好。
Well, a lot of deep fried food is called soul food. And it's called soul food because it's bad for your body, but it's good for your soul.
也是啦，好啦，我们为了要吃美食，吃点炸物还好。我们来看下一个题目，他说什么呢？有一个空格哦。
Blank. The origin of tempura isn't Japanese. It's actually Portuguese.
好，题目意思说，空格天妇罗并非起源于日本，它实际上是来自葡萄牙。那这题在考我们副词，我们来看选项。So our options are
A is besides.
此外，而且
B, therefore.
就是因此，所以
C, fortunately.
就是幸运地或是幸好怎么样。
And D, however.
就是然而不过。那课文前面的说法会让大家以为天妇罗是日本食物嘛？那这题空格却说，天妇罗并非起源于日本，所以我们就可以推断空格里面这个副词是要表达这个语义的转折。然而不过怎么样？所以要选 D, however. And the correct sentence is
However, the origin of tempura isn't Japanese. It's actually Portuguese.
It's actually Portuguese. Now I learned about it. And then we can read on to learn about the history of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's continue here. Portuguese merchants arrived in Japan in the late 16th century, and trade between the two nations soon
blank
pink.
All right, I like
sound.
that sound. All right. 好，题目意思是葡萄牙商人于16世纪末抵达日本，两国之间贸易不久就空格。这题考我们片语动词，我们来看选项 A。
Okay, A is picked up.
好，它当不及物用，可以表达说经过一段沉寂的时候，突然忙碌了起来，或是这个活动改善了、好转了。
B is died down.
就是像声音或其他东西减弱，逐渐平息下来。
C is stood out.
像站出来，那就是脱颖而出、出众、很醒目显眼的意思。
And lastly, D is showed off.
Showed off？ 为什么是这样 ？All right， 它就是
Well, everyone
炫耀
will look at you, maybe.
应该是秀出那个钻石
Like
这样。
oh, okay, yeah, well, that makes
Show off 炫耀卖弄。那从语义上来看，课文是要表达葡萄牙商人在16世纪末抵达日本，两国之间贸易不久就变得忙碌起来，很快就活络起来，所以答案要选 A picked up. So the correct sentence is
Portuguese merchants arrived in Japan in the late 16th century, and trade between the two nations soon picked up.
oh. So it's because of the trade between these two countries.
Of course, these two countries are going to try to trade, meaning like buy and sell things. And when they do that, they're also going to just become friends and have good relationships. And what do friends like to talk about? Food.
Oh, do they trade tempura?
They might, right? So, well, how do you cook tempura? Well, let me teach you how I make it. Then your friend is going to make it. Say, hey, remember you showed me last time? Would you try mine? And then maybe that Portuguese food becomes a little more Japanese, and maybe that's how it all got started, right? There were two friends that had to talk about it at some time.
Yeah, but maybe there's some fact we need to learn about at the beginning of the trade.
Well, I think it's time to dive in and learn more about it.
Yeah.
So let's begin. At first, the Japanese were more interested in guns, but they later traded goods like silk and silver for wool, tobacco, and Portuguese recipes, such as the one for tempura.
好，那这边我们看到这个用到这个 trade 这个动词，就表示交换交易。所以他一开始在讲说啊，这个日本人对这个枪支比较有兴趣，到后来就是对其他东西的交易比较有兴趣了，就甚至是这个葡萄牙人的食谱，像是天妇罗的食谱喽。好，那么现在呢，我们这第一个段落差不多喽，我们待会先休息一下，然后再进入到下一个段落。
Peace, peace.
In Portugal, green bean tempura was popular during the Christian holiday Lent, when eating meat is not allowed. Later, the Japanese expanded the recipe to include foods like shrimp, sweet potatoes, fish, or other meats and vegetables. Today, tempura is commonly served over rice or noodles, or eaten with sauce as an appetizer. It has truly become one of Japan's signature foods.
Welcome back. So let's continue reading about the history of tempura.
Here we go. In Portugal, green bean tempura was popular during the Christian holiday Lent. Blank, eating meat is not allowed.
好，题目意思是说，在葡萄牙呢，四季豆天妇罗在基督教节日大斋节期间很受欢迎，然后空格不允许吃肉。句子里面 Christian 就是形容是基督教的基督徒的，然后 Lent 它是指说基督教这个大斋期，大家是不能吃肉的。好，那这个是在测验我们关系词，我们来看选项。So our options are
A, what?
那就是复合关系代名词，相当于 the thing that 或者 the things that， 就是什么什么的事物。
B, which?
它是用来代指事物的关系代名词。
C, where?
它是用来修饰地方的关系副词。
And D, when?
这是修饰时间的关系副词。那我们先看到空格后面这个 eating meat is not allowed， 它是个完整句子哦，所以这时候关系词你不能用关系代名词，而是用关系副词。那空格前面这个 during the Christian holiday Lent， 这是这个基督教节日大斋期期间，这是一段时间，我们就要用修饰时间的关系副词 when。 我们用关系子句 when eating meat is not allowed 来描述说，在这个大灾期期间来做补充，说是不允许吃肉的，所以答案是 D when。So the correct sentence is
In Portugal, green bean tempura was popular during the Christian holiday Lent when eating meat is not allowed. Now, when people traveled around the world, they wanted to spread Christianity. They wanted more people to become Christians. And so during Lent, you should also not eat meat. But there was a problem. People far up in the northern parts of, say, like Canada, didn't really have vegetables to eat because Lent is always like in February and in March. You couldn't grow anything. So these people could not be vegetarian. So the church says, okay. We got this idea. The beaver, this thing you love to eat, that's a vegetable today. That's right.
beaver?
That's
a cute
right.
animal? What?
That's right, because there were nothing else to eat, and they're like, well, okay, that's a vegetable for you. Now, people don't usually think of beavers as a vegetable, but to help these people out, they said, okay, we'll compromise. We'll work something out.
好奇怪，哪有人吃素还吃那个河狸 beaver？ 天哪，他们那么可爱！
很可爱哦。
Anyway, let's continue reading. 好，接下来他说 later the Japanese 空格
Blue?
foods like shrimp, sweet potatoes, fish, or other meats and vegetables. 好，题目意思说，后来日本人空格像是虾子、地瓜、鱼类或其他肉类、蔬菜等食物。那这来考我们语义，我们来看选项哦。So our options are
A. Designed a strategy to sell.
设计一个策略来贩售。
B. Expanded the recipe to include.
扩大了食谱来包括什么？
C. Examined the process to protect.
检查流程来保护什么东西？
D. Changed the method to avoid.
改变方法来避免。好，那其实听起来都很怪。好，前面提到日本人从葡萄牙人那边取得天妇罗食谱，然后又说葡萄牙人在这个他们这个用四季豆天妇罗呢，在大灾期期间是很受欢迎，所以这边是要表达说日本人再把他的食谱扩大了，然后把虾子啊、地瓜、鱼啊、其他肉类、蔬菜都把它包括进来、囊括进来，所以适合答案是 B. Expanded the recipe to include 扩大食谱来包括。So the correct sentence is
Later, the Japanese expanded the recipe to include foods like shrimp, sweet potatoes, fish, or other meats and vegetables.
the Japanese are so smart.
Very creative.
好，我们来看这边一个单词是 shrimp。
Shrimp, it's 虾子,
就是
right?
虾子，很
Now,
简
be
单。
careful, it's uncountable, but you can talk about a shrimp. But when we eat them, they become shrimp. And sometimes it also means like a really skinny, weak person.
就是很弱小的人
Yeah,
啊
so you might say, hey, shrimp, give me your lunch money. Yeah, so it's not a nice word.
Is it kind of offensive?
It's not offensive, it's just mean. Like,
Oh.
Yeah, people won't want to be called shrimp, but it's not like they'll get really mad.
就是称呼人家是很弱小的人，
也
那种
欺负他们。
欺负他们感觉。Okay, here we got our example sentence for the word shrimp.
Kenny had a bowl of shrimp fried rice for dinner.
炒饭，虾仁炒饭好好吃。Today, tempura is commonly served over rice or noodles or eaten with sauce as an appetizer. 就是说，天妇罗现在通常会搭配米饭啊、面条来，或者沾酱汁来当开胃菜。Appetizer 就是开胃菜。
That's what you eat before your normal food.
And then we got this word sauce.
Yeah, so sauce is weird because 应该是不可数, right? It should be uncountable because it can flow like water, but sauces is also a very popular word. It's uncountable and countable.
所以这个 sauce 它其实可以可数或是不可数。你可以说 barbecue sauce 就是烤肉酱啊 ，chili sauce 辣椒酱之类的。
The best sauce.
Yes. 好，那这边有一个例句，我们请 Chris 老师帮我们念一下。
Vincent added some garlic to the tomato sauce.
Okay. Now, and then we move on. It says it has truly become one of Japan's signature foods. 这个字好难，什么是 signature?
So signature usually means you write your name, but it also means like the most special thing you do.
它本来是可以指签名，对不对？
That's right. But it also means something you do better than anybody else.
哦，那在这边它也可以表达招牌的意思。Signature 招牌的，它的例句还没有念，我们要请 Chris 老师帮我们念一下。
Roast duck is this restaurant's signature dish. Or we could talk about a signature move.
Yeah. 同学们应该知道 Michael Jackson 吧？我们现在来做 Michael Jackson 的 signature moves 来跟大家 say goodbye.
The moonwalk. Goodbye.
I remember more like this.
That's pretty
Bye
good.
bye.
When it comes to Japanese food, the first dishes that come to mind are usually sushi and ramen. But one other that deserves recognition is tempura. The famous dish of lightly battered and deep-fried vegetables or meat is often enjoyed by people around the world as a snack or a side. However, the origin of tempura isn't Japanese. It's actually Portuguese. Portuguese merchants arrived in Japan in the late 16th century, and trade between the two nations soon picked up. At first, the Japanese were more interested in guns, but they later traded goods like silk and silver for wool, tobacco, and Portuguese recipes, such as the one for tempura. In Portugal, green bean tempura was popular during the Christian holiday Lent, when eating meat is not allowed. Later, the Japanese expanded the recipe to include foods like shrimp, sweet potatoes, fish, or other meats and vegetables. Today, tempura is commonly served over rice or noodles or eaten with sauce as an appetizer. It has truly become one of Japan's signature foods.
About 5 minutes' walk from Longshan Temple lies a historic site worth visiting. Bopiliao Historic Block has lasted through the many different periods of Taiwan's history. During the Qing Dynasty period, Mengjia, now known as Wanhua District, was a center of business and trade. The old Bopiliao Street, today's Kongding Road, Alley 173, was originally a busy and popular street. Many people lived and ran businesses here. During the Japanese colonial era, new roads were built around the area. Bopiliao Street then became a small, quiet back alley. In the early 2000s, the Taipei city government began efforts to preserve the block. In the Heritage and Cultural Learning Center of Taipei, visitors can learn about the many different layers of Taipei's history. Bopiliao Historic Block offers an authentic look at Taipei's past.
See you next time!